Hi, everyone. So you're getting settled into your Zoom um, interface here. Just want to go ahead and let you know that we're going to kick things off in just a minute. But if you don't mind going in and typing into chat where you are logging in from, and maybe one thing from today that has brought a smile to your face, that could be a good place to start. We're going to give folks just a minute or two to be able to get in to join us. And just so you know, we are recording this this SC chat, and we'll explain a little bit more. We're going to record the breakout rooms, but I did want to let you know that we are recording this portion. Coffee, yes, Corey. Coffee does bring a smile to my face. Puppy cuddle, Cheyenne. Oh, and hi, Cheyenne. It's nice to see you. And Hips Tidewater coming in. A good cup of coffee, you and Corey, yes. Oh, we have Nicole joining from North Carolina. Marty from Suffolk County. Saw a rainbow this morning. How gorgeous. Oh, and Indiana coming in with some sunshine. It's a little bit overcast here. I'm in Rockbridge County, so kind of Southwest Virginia, but the temperature is amazing. So I'm going to call that a win. All right, let's go ahead and get started. It looks like folks are able to have been able to get in and join and get settled. So we are here today to talk about the topic of mutual care from the lens of service coordinators. Those who are caring for others in this position also need to be able to fill up their own tanks too, right? Because once our tank is empty, it gets really hard to be able to give to others. And this is going to be a conversation about how to have a kind of a communal lens. And I don't want to say anything. Justin's really our one who's going to guide the conversation, but I just wanted to let you know that this topic is really important for right now, we think, because it's kind of it's a busy start to kind of a little bit of a new year for service coordinators and those of us who are in child facing work.
Hi.
And we want to make sure that as you're kind of getting into maybe part of what you might consider like a new year, that you're coming in with also this perspective of how to take good care and good care for others and good care for yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over for just a moment to Seth Buffkin, who's going to talk with you about accessibility in Zoom for those of you who might want to be able to use some of those accessibility features. And then right after that, Justin Gooderman is going to hop right in. He's going to give you a little bit about his background, and then he's going to take the conversation and guide it with us. I would recommend, if you're feeling up to it, if you would turn your cameras on, because we do want this to be more of a conversation rather than just kind of a webinar. So, and that's usually easier to do if you kind of know the faces of those you're talking to. So we welcome you to be able to do that with us too, but no pressure. We know some of you are also eating lunch at this time too. So, all right, Seth, all you.
Hey guys. We want to make sure that this discussion is as accessible as possible, so we wanted to give you some tips on some Zoom accessibility. You can auto-generate captions through your Zoom menu, so you can get a live transcript and even download it post discussion. There's keyboard shortcuts that can control all of your Zoom meetings, so you don't even need a mouse if you would like, and you can check those out in your Zoom settings. And then screen readers do work with Zoom, so you can customize audible announcements with your settings. And if you have any other tech questions or have some questions about accessibility, I am just a private chat away in the Zoom meeting.
All right. Well, I do want to say thank you to everybody for taking time, to join this. And yeah, we always welcome to see your face. But we also thank you for showing up however you're able. I am Justin Gutterman. I am a service coordinator in the Loudoun County Infants and Toddlers Connection. I'm also a social worker. I'm also a parent, and little personal history. I'm also a career changer. I came to care work a little bit later in life as a result of being a parent with a child in early intervention. So really having that experience shape my understanding of parenting in a deep and personal way, and really wanting to dedicate myself to this kind of care work. And so today we're kind of thinking about how we make this work sustainable for ourselves. And we do this really together. And so we're going to look at that, how we hear a lot about pressures that we face in this work. And so it's a lot. This is a big job. And a lot of times we have a high emotional demand. If you've had, how often have you had families? They're really going through a tough decision to come into early intervention. You're their first point of contact. You have to kind of set the stage for what early intervention is and understand that's a very vulnerable process for families to come into. And that vulnerability does place a pretty high emotional weight on us. We have to explain that, differences in their child's development, possible like dealing with heavy medical diagnoses, unexpected delays, all of these things really do impact us. And so we do carry that load, even being that first face they see and kind of going through them with that journey. And then the other part of this job that I think we all feel is a certain amount of isolation. We have our caseloads. It's a very distinct vertical slice. We may be interfaced with some of the providers, but and families occasionally, we don't always interface with each other, and we don't always get to pull on each other's expertise. So we do get siloed, a good bit. And so whether we're in the field, in the office, working from home, there's very much this kind of tunnel vision of like we have our deadlines, we have our responsibilities, we have our families, we have our contacts. And so it really can narrow your view when you're trying to do this work. And then I don't know that I've ever experienced, I've worked in early intervention in a few different locations, that the systems have ever been clear cut and simple. We are always working in a county program that reports to a state program that reports to a federal program that's maybe interfacing with a school system, a health system, insurance, like a variety of different medical providers. So these are all very complex. And so just navigating how, not even getting the correct paperwork, but if you get your paperwork correct, are you reporting it correctly? Is it uploading correctly? How do we make our corrections and making sure that, is someone else putting it in as well? And then having to, be the liaison to the family to explain all those systems. So it's very tricky. And there's a lot of T's and I's to cross. There's a lot of forms to sign, and it's also difficult to reset that table with every family you meet. You have to think like every time, like they've never seen these forms before. You've seen them, 10,000 times. How do you keep that conversation fresh, and how do you keep it from getting real rote yourself so that you can keep that connection to them while maintaining that fidelity of the paperwork requirements? And so this tends to lead to a certain amount of administrative overload. We need to get, we have deadlines. You have your 45 days, your 30 days, your 30-day check-ins, your transition meeting, your transition conference. Have you met all of those? Did you turn all your paperwork into the, half a dozen different people they need to go to? Did it go to an email? And so we have lists and, different places that things are organized. And so the organization, like you're organizing. And so you wind up with this sort of, pyramid that just keeps building upside down, and you keep getting weighted down on the top to try to get to one task. And that's what we think of when we hit that administrative overload. And so I know for me, that's like one of my biggest struggles is analysis paralysis. Like, okay, I need to tell a family I need to think about transition. Okay, but they're in this circumstance or maybe going on vacation and now I have to think about how all these systems and that can leave you feeling kind of locked down. And then we needing to have that knowledge and needing to feel like you have that knowledge and feeling you need to be both the expert and the person to support them emotionally really kind of can feel like you're being pulled in two different directions. And so that pressure can really kind of, can cook you. And when we think about things on burnout, it's when we can't feel like the work we're doing is sustainable. It's like we're going to get through this next step, but then the next step, I'm just going to have to try to get through that. And so all those things can feel like compounding and heavy. And it's not a situation where it gets twice as heavy. It gets twice as heavy, then 4 times as heavy, then 8 times as heavy. And so we have this exponential growth of that pressure, while at the same time possibly feeling guilt because we want to provide the care for the family, and we want to have that emotional connection as well. So in order to deal with that, something that's become very popularized is the term self-care. And we all, I think at some point we hear about self-care, gets mentioned a lot. What am I going to do for myself? How am I going to take this load off myself? And so it becomes your responsibility to take care of yourself. I mean, that's always important. We always want to be taking care of ourselves. And this conversation is not to diminish the importance of self-care, but to provide more information about different forms of care for yourself in kind of a communal setting. So we're going to lead into, if people have some feedback, but we want to lead into kind of our first breakout room to think about moments of self-care, and when do you feel, the most alone, kind of, or that isolation and that pressure in your role. And then what kind of stress from the role is kind of carrying home with you. And then how has self-care been helpful for you, or how has it, or does it feel like that burden? So like, what are your strategies currently that we're using for that self-care piece, that you feel that have been repeatable, sustainable? Um, and so, we're going to kind of take a look at that, and then thinking about, uh, how we can look for times where we have felt supported in our roles. So two parts. One is going to be that self-care piece. Like, is that felt sustainable? Has that felt challenging for you? And then times that we felt supported, whether that was from a peer, from a supervisor, or from maybe like, one of my most important peer groups is from my graduate school. Like, we were a cohort, we stayed in contact, and occasionally we check in with each other. Or times that we feel like we need that support. So those are the prompts we're looking at. So we're going to go into our breakout, making sure all of our timing's good. And so we'd like, everybody to have about 2 minutes to reflect each, and then kind of 2 minutes to kind of discuss as a group. Not hard timing, but that's our framework. All right, everybody. I hope that was a good conversation. I'm curious about hearing, just briefly, and if people have other ideas, please share them in the chat, of just like something that, kind of your group took away, or something, because I want to, like, for me, this is a good temperature check to make sure to see where kind of common stressors are or common successes, because I want to highlight those as well. So from room one, if someone wants to come off on mute or drop something in the chat, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so validation from supervisors and managers is a great support. That is always very true. We want to know that the work we're doing is going in the direction that we want it to go in. So, and that's just true. Like, we want to feel validated in this work because it is very challenging work. Thanks. And then room two, someone had something they wanted to share.
I can speak. I think we all kind of agree as well that validation confirmation with the PM supervisor, that was a key support. Also self-care, we discussed about self-care, how we can take breaks while we're working from home, and that's what I recall.
Great. Yeah, it's about, definitely building in that time for yourself, and kind of going to go into that more. Thanks. And then so group 3 was Emma, Lise,
And
and Kaylee.
Yeah, and I think that these folks had trouble
Oh, that
getting
was the waiting
into the
room.
group. So
If any of
yeah,
you had a thought or a feeling about self-care or that, I would also welcome any comments. And then room 4, which was Cheyenne, Elaine, Marlene, and Nicole.
Our group basically just said that they felt like they had good support with the other service coordinators, and I talked to them about the role that I had played at ECI, and I think that they sound like they're doing a very good job.
That's great.
Pretty difficult.
Yeah. And then room 5, which is Elizabeth, Juliana, Marty, and Tina.
and we are a small enough group, so unmuting seems to work really well, and just sharing out loud if you're
Yeah.
up to it.
In our group, we talked about how in our current role, we all feel really supported. We also talked about some self-care that we had in common, which was reading, escaping and kind of having time away with reading. And then one of our members said that she loves going to the gym, having time to go to the gym and just kind of being able to be there for like an hour really helps her self-care.
Yeah, those are great things. And those are also and that's why I also, like to highlight this, is to find those commonalities, because we have, we can exist in unexpected communities or different ways that we share, how reading sustains us, how staying physical sustains us, even those individual actions can be social connections as well. Appreciate that. And then room 6 was Carolyn, Nicole, and some people have some abbreviated email names.
So we just talked more about we just shared a little bit about like a time that we felt like we weren't supported, and then we shared different self-care strategies. And for me it was a little bit different because I'm a program manager, and so I wanted to figure out how to support my staff. Some things that I know I mentioned were like puzzles, like sometimes just doing like a puzzle out in a room. And then staff, like they can just go and they can just do a couple puzzle pieces. And just to give their brain a little bit of a break. I also mentioned, I'm trying to think of what else we talked about. Yeah, so we just talked about different self-care strategies and things like that. And so it's very interesting to hear like what different people do for self-care, because I want to try to support my staff because I know it can be challenging.
No, and I really appreciate that. And that goes back to that importance of feeling that validation from our supervisors. So getting that cross investment is really important. I think like a lifetime ago, I worked as an office manager at a tech company, and it was high stress. It was a 24-hour office with support network. So what we did was we had the office Lego kit that lived in our lobby. We built a Star Destroyer, the Death Star, and it was when they were putting out the 60,000 piece Legos. So people would slowly work over that, and then we had like a big display case. So anything, even little things like I need a brain break. Those are really important things that we find sustainable. Okay. And then room 8, which was Brooke, Jennifer, Marissa, and Melissa.
I'm happy to share. We really as a team discussed that self-care is difficult for us. That we're used to serving and caring and focusing on others, and all of us just shared we have a little hard time getting creative with that self-care portion, but we also discussed that it's important to stop, pause, and reflect on helping us either slow down, reach out for support. When we're a better us, we can give better, we can serve better, and it's not worth us being strung out, or fast forwarding through a meeting because we're either task based or we haven't slowed down enough to go, all right, I need to breathe, or I need to take some time, or I've booked too many meetings, or, whatever it is. So we need to set some boundaries and things like that. We also talked at the workplace, that support is valuable, kind of in tandem with that self-care. Psychological safety is super important, and that is part of self-care is feeling like if you have feedback, like even in a forum like this, that you're going to feel heard or validated, or that you're safe. So, and I think team safety, support from people that can go, oh, yeah, I remember doing that, or when I first started, that was really hard, or that people can stay humble and reflect with you on, I remember what it was like to first start, or I've made that error before, or you're not alone, or those kinds of things. That's like a summary of what we talked about.
Thanks. No, that's a lot of really great details, and you're serving me excellently into my next point about those pieces. I mean, I think we've all, maybe many of us have been in a meeting and being like, okay, this meeting is 2 hours. That means I can get this amount of additional texting done to clients, and I can also get these emails done while I listen to this like training thing. And you wind up trying to toggle 4 tasks at once, and none of them get to pass 75% completion. And so now you're feeling like behind it, like not just 8 ball, like 4 8 balls. So that's a very common thing for us to do with ourselves, especially with like technology and mobility and things like that. All right, and then our final group, Adrian and Tony.
Okay, we talked about so that some of the biggest stressors, the overwhelm with just the sheer amount of work, especially with a lot of understaffing right now, but also the emotional toll that the job can take, especially in the cases where you've lost a child. So the biggest support there was the team itself, and knowing that you're not alone, and having your team there, and then some self-care that we discussed. Going outside, taking a walk, or simply just walking away from the computer and taking a break, and recognizing the need to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are all very true. And yeah, and staffing always plays a piece, caseload always plays a piece. Like again, it builds. And so, as I was mentioning before, when we get overloaded, it's not twice as stressful, it's 4 times as stressful, 8 times. It expands just exponentially. So we always, think about those stresses and how they impact each other. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, if you can take that screen break, look out, even just look out a window. We talk, and so we'll kind of go into this next part. But thank you everybody for sharing.
You
So,
skipped group 7.
oh, I skipped group 7. No, please forgive me.
It's
Group
okay.
7.
So, there was 2 of us in here. Well, there was 3, but one was I think she was having a computer issue. But I kind of talked about how importance of like teamwork, not only within like your support with your supervisors, but with each other. So like I was giving an example of a mom who the PT had some concerns with domestic abuse, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come out, kind of check it out with you, see what's going on. Also, I'm a service coordinator. So I went out with her and was able to work mental health into the conversation during the PT session. And the PT felt, very supported by me. And then of course I felt very supported by her and validated, because she was like, hey, you did a really good job, because dad was also there. So it was kind of a hard conversation to have without pointing fingers or trying to say anything like, we know what's going on in this house without saying it, because dad was sitting there on the couch. But I felt very good about having her with me during that conversation, because, we both were able to kind of support each other in that way.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a very high stress and can be, very self-triggering, like based on personal experiences and things like that. And so it's being able to connect with somebody in that moment and not feel alone in like some of those decisions is very important. I'm glad you were able to support each other in that way, because those things are very difficult. I think any of us that's in this profession long enough sees families that are in unsafe situations, or maybe dealing with intimate partner violence, domestic violence, child protective services, children being relocated from the home, children in foster families. And you can be in those very acute moments where, maybe you have to step in as a mandated reporter. Am I seeing something unsafe? Do I have to make that decision in that moment? And being able to connect with somebody and not necessarily feel alone in that decision is very important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I want to add, not only having like self-care for yourself, but I've gotten more comfortable with providing that to my families. I'm like, what are you doing for yourself? Like, how are you feeling right now? We talk a lot about being there for the kids and supporting the kids, but like, you need to help yourself too, so you are the best version, mom, dad, or whoever is with the kid the majority of the time. And a lot of times they'll look back and be like, wow, like I really appreciate that. Like I want to say, probably not like I'm making people cry. Like I've probably had like 5 families where I'm like, can I just sit in this moment with you? Because I think it's so important for them to know that you are there for them, and you're not just checking off a 6-month review or whatever you need to do. Like, it's so important to be able to connect with your family so they can be vulnerable, and you can be there to continue to support them in all aspects of their life for their child and their family.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's something that, again, with those different stressful systems that we can lose sight of. That we are here, we are a family program. It's a big reason why I'm a believer in early intervention, because it is something we do with families, and we always tell families, like, if we're gonna come here, we're gonna give you your tools because you're an expert in your child, and we are giving you heavy information, and how can we sit with you again? Yeah, so we support and go on that journey with them, and those are always like, the families that really stay with us are the ones that do make that connection, um, and connect with you as a provider and connect with you as a child, and so. And yeah, it's a very common sentiment. I've worked in childcare settings where we're like, I love the kids, but the parents are the hard part. Right? They think we all get tied into that. But if we can make that connection with the parent, we make that connection with the whole family. So yeah, I really appreciate sharing that. So thinking again, kind of in these two modes that we were discussing, like, how do I take care of myself? How do we take care of each other? And, I want to highlight the differences between self-care and mutual care, and some of the traps that we can fall into with self-care, and where things we find that may work for ourselves, but like ways that we can continue to grow in that sustainability. So self-care, first of all, it's yourself, it's individual. Some people this really works for, like I need time for me, I need time apart from everybody. Um, and I'm going to fill my cup. Like I know how to do this. Um, and I'm hearing a lot of really great strategies and ones that we share. But the flip side of that is that it can be, again, in an isolating profession, self-care can be isolating and it can put an extra demand on you. One of the other traps is that self-care has turned into a buzzword. Um, we hear it from everywhere. It's like, oh, let's take a moment for self-care. We're gonna, center ourselves before we, like, okay, we've got an all-day training. We're gonna take 10 minutes to watch like a YouTube meditation video, and like, oh, we're all centered now and ready to dive into this work. And so, we think about that and it's like, did that actually center you? Is that the way you need to show up? Is that personalized? Is that what you would have chosen to do? The other thing with self-care is that it's something that gets discussed and emphasized and passed around, but it's not necessarily something that gets, measured as a part of our success. So, if any of us have been at a review at any kind of job, not even just here, and we're going through all of our performance evaluations, like, oh, are you meeting with your families? Are you turning in your paperwork? How's your communication? There's not one where it's like, are you taking care of yourself? We don't think about that. And, I would see that at, outside of like, even outside of care industries and like advertising or tech, other places I've worked where it's like, hey, we're paying attention to self-care. We have, like a quiet corner, but we don't expect you to sit in it because that means you're not working. And so, it turns to that two-sided coin where, okay, or the other flip side of that is if you're not practicing self-care, if you are working and stressing yourself out, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't get time to, I didn't read. Like I forgot to read. Now I got to pencil and read. I got to schedule this." And then that self-care stress reliever flips and hits that tipping point and becomes a stressor. Like I didn't get to the gym. Like, no, okay, now I'm out of shape. Like, okay, well, maybe eat what I want. Now I haven't eaten what I want. Now I'm not practicing the diet that I wanted, the breathing that I wanted, the meditation that I scheduled. I'm paying for this app and I just watch a ding on my thing. And like now it's built up and now it's another stressor. And that's not serving you. And so those things can turn into, the flip side. We're so worried about filling in the self-care correctly that we're not doing it personally. And then the other side of it is self-care, is your self-care treated as your emergency release valve? Is it when like I'm hitting a wall, I gotta get up, I gotta walk away. And I'm gonna walk away just long enough so I can get back in and start doing it again. Like, is it just keeping me under the red line? Or is my self-care sustainable and making the work that I'm doing sustainable? Is it making my home life sustainable? Is it nurturing me? And some people, like, it sounds like a lot of great strategies. People like have things that are regular or part of their lives or integrated and are doing it. And again, like I'm not, pushing people away from self-care. I just want to make sure that we're aware that you're not always on an island with it. And even just sharing like, hey, here's the self-care that works for me and finding like that community around it is really valuable. And that brings us into the concept of mutual aid. And so the core kind of concepts of mutual aid is that it is collective, it is a group. So we're hearing about like, I'm really great about connecting with my peers. How many times are we, like in a meeting where it's just like, oh, it's really nice to see you. It's like, oh, I never get to talk to you or in another team, or I never get to, or someone shares an experience or something that really resonates with you that you haven't had a chance to otherwise reflect on. And so like having that collective group is meant to both see your burden and to share your burden together. And then it is reciprocal. So how many times have we talked about the importance with our kids and parents of serve and return? We say like the most important part of your child's development is going to be that serve and return. I've seen that TED talk at probably half a dozen meetings now about the importance of serve and return. So like, it is a conversation. It is a space to hear each other. It's a space to see each other. And that can show up in different ways. So that it's a space for me to speak and know that my voice is going to be heard. It's a space for me to come and be able to listen to someone that may be sharing a struggle that I'm not ready to express yet. And so a big part of that is that it's rooted in that solidarity, that we are doing, challenging work, and we are doing this together. We're not doing this alone. We're doing this with families. We're doing this with our coworkers, with our supervisors, and moving out of a lot of these concepts of, like this, like maybe my supervisor isn't supporting me, or maybe these team members have a different way of working that's really hard for me. And it's like, and kind of being able to break that away from separating the people from the system. I think that's like very important for us to be able to work together, is that we have a lot of systems that are in place that are very challenging. We have a lot of administrative systems. We have a lot of medical systems. We have a lot of things that we have to report to and meet to fidelity to be able to say we've done our job to someone that, is collecting data. And so if we see each other as people having to navigate the system together, we are able to support each other better. And not necessarily come at each other with recrimination of like, because we're all going to have our strengths and we're all going to have our challenges. Just like we work with our families, we extend extraordinary grace to our families. We extend amazing empathy to these children. We connect with families in extremely difficult situations. Can we do that with each other? Can we see that? And how many times do we say to ourselves, like, so I saw the parent with interacting with the kid, and yeah, it made me wonder. And we take a minute to wonder and reflect. And if we see that like someone struggling with a coworker or like a style of communication, and like being able to, if we can, hold off on that moment of judgment to like wonder, and then say like, hey, can we come together and have a conversation about that? That seemed tough. Um, that was tough for me. Like, or this family seemed complicated, and having spaces to even reflect on those situations with our peers. So we think about that. So again, in the same way that we talk about early intervention, we talk about like a lot of the high concept, like, it's going to be family coaching. We're in there. What does that actually look like? I always get into the nuts and bolts. I'm very pedantic. I never like to leave a meeting not knowing what it is I'm going to be doing. So how can we show up for each other? So sometimes this is a buddy system. One of the biggest things that helped me learn, and still helps me learn, is a turn-in talk. Like, do I know somebody that I can go to, whether it's like, a coworker, a peer from another job, someone I maybe met professionally or even socially, just to think about a situation. Like, you put down the phone, you did that, and something maybe didn't sit, made you curious. So, you go, you have a look, hey, can I talk to you for 2 minutes? Or do we have a time that we're getting together and I can bring this to the table? Those are always really important, and identifying who your people are. And then being able to share. Like, I've never, like, having just done the kaleidoscope, there was never a meeting where someone didn't bring up a tool, a strategy, or a piece of their own experience that someone else wasn't excited to take away. We all have these amazing funds of knowledge, and they may come from different backgrounds. You have been doing this job for 20 years. Maybe you came from being a provider, as like a therapist. Maybe coming as a parent, or you're coming from like a community that can really provide a certain amount of insight. Or hey, do you love Microsoft Excel? Maybe you have something to share with everybody. All of those things are really valuable and are things that we possess, but may not know if we don't have space for each other. This one is one of the hardest things for me to do, is to listen without needing to fix. And we're in a job where, this is very important for us. We always, parents will come to us with like, it's like, okay, you've told me my child has these delays. How are you going to fix them? And you're the expert. Tell me how to fix it. And it's like, well, we remind that, they're the expert in their children. We extend that grace to them. So we can do that for each other. Like sometimes I just need to talk the idea out. And I'm sure people have been in sessions with parents where just them talking the idea of like, how do I get my kid to the car? And if they talk it out loud, they come up with the solution. They have that capacity in them. So always offering that space, and that I know that I can talk about it and I'm not going to worry about you telling me what to do. Mansplaining was a very important lesson for me in my life, and taught me to be a better listener. And then creating those spaces, and those spaces don't have to be heavy. Those spaces can be something, be like, this is the one where we've been. This is our stitch and bitch. This is it. This is where we're going to get it out. Like, oh my God, this thing crashed 10 times today. I couldn't get through this meeting. I had to pull out a piece of paper and we managed to figure it out. And it's like, man, that was a lot. To have that reflection, or, to laugh about, like, your favorite kid, or the favorite pet that you met at the home. Like I met a 14-year-old blind English bulldog, and that was who I connected with the most during that assessment. I'm just like, I feel you, buddy. So making those moments, and so they don't have to be prescriptive, and that they're not owned. If someone starts a mutual aid group, like they're not the boss of it. Like it is that communal space, that we share this work together, and that we share this as equals because we're all bringing different expertise. And then finding ways when we know, like bless all of you for coming during transition season at the beginning of the school. I know several of us are going from this meeting to have a meeting about a high stress time. So knowing that, and this is something that, people that are experienced in their area can help with, like with new people, like mentoring, like, hey, you're about to walk into a stressful period. Can I check in with you? Like, hey, and you build that back and forth. Like, so during those deadline periods, or periods where people are on vacation, we know we're going to have to do a lot of covering. Are we making sure that we're all good with everything? And even that can just be listening as well. And then advocating for ourselves. Do we have the space to support ourselves? What is a productive, unified voice sound like? A lot of us talk about wanting to get feedback and validation from supervisors. What are our supervisors needing to be able to provide that? Are there tools or trainings that we need to look at? Or is it things, and those aren't necessarily institutional things. Are there things that we can provide to each other? Do we have this expertise to provide for each other? Because that's what mutual aid is about. It is not about the concept of charity, which is a very vertical system, as someone providing for someone that they feel doesn't have. Mutual aid is looking at the collective strength through shared expertise. And so when we want to advocate for how we can support each other, that's what we come together to think about. Going into how we can stay connected, we're going to think a little bit about what kind of mutual aid, either formal or informal, we think about exist in either your workplace or communities you belong to. And then what habits can we adopt that feel accessible to share with each other? And then what would make it easier for you to receive help? And what would make it easier for you to offer help?
Yeah, and just knowing that we've hit the hour mark.
Oh no, I got going too far.
So I'm wondering, for those of you who are able to kind of stand for a moment and go ahead and maybe put some things in chat for some of the questions that Justin, maybe we just do chat and have folks share
That's
out
right.
rather than go into breakout rooms. Being able to share what are some of those synchronous and real time ways that you're able to kind of get this mutual care going. And then what are some asynchronous, so not in real time. But I just want to, for those who are popping off and not able to hang on for a couple of minutes, I just want to let you know that first of all, the resources are this is recorded. So you can fast forward to this end part and be able to see that too. And I also wanted to remind you to check your inbox. There is a survey that you'll receive. And that will, once you complete that survey, to give us some really good feedback on SC chats, and then also to suggest topics for future SC chats. We'd really like, once you complete that, then you'll get your certificate for professional development hours. So I just want you to know that that's there. But I'll be quiet now and let Justin be able to kind of lead this this last part of the conversation, because it is important for those of you who are able to stay.
Yep. So to think about that, and yeah, apologies. But so we want to think about methods of staying connected, and those connections never are, like, the perfection is often the enemy of accomplishment. So we want to think about ways that, would you attend like an in-person, informal coffee hour, coffee breaks. Yeah, I see some people have supervision, whether that's formal or informal. Even things where we can bring even anonymous asynchronous messages that can be left, like, I have this team, or I dealt with this situation in my office. I don't necessarily feel comfortable coming to that in a formal group, but like, how do I help navigate that, or if I had a family with this. So, how can we collectively continue to show up for each other? And with that, I will honor everybody's time kind of here. I know I ran a little bit long. So yeah, I would love to stay connected with you all. I'm sure all the information is going to help pass along.
Yeah, and if you all have any, please go ahead and put some ideas in chat while I just again walk through these. Justin, I don't want you to feel like you need to apologize. I feel like all this information is really important, and we can also always have a part 2 if we have the interest there, and maybe a check-in down the road 3 to 6 months later with everybody too. We're seeing some ideas come through. I do want to loop back to the suggestion to do an SC chat related to losing a child during this work. And for those of you who don't have structures in place like reflective supervision, we would really love to be able to bring this topic, this really sensitive topic, to SC chats, to have a conversation and to talk about ways that, to really help you be able to cope with this. So if you have anyone that you know of, another service coordinator, perhaps, who, or a social worker in your program, somebody that could really help us facilitate this conversation. Corey put a message in chat for us here too, but if you know of anyone and you wouldn't mind, reaching out to them and reaching out to me, or frankly, any member of our team that you may already have a connection with, I would really welcome that, because then we could, create an opportunity through an SC chat. We want these conversations to be what you need, but we also need a little bit of maybe some networking on your ends to help us be able to find a speaker who could really help us all navigate that topic and discussion. Justin, I'm seeing a part 2 is welcome, so
I would love to continue this conversation about organizing and different ways we can show up. So.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. All right, and that's what this space is meant to be, you guys. It's your space as service coordinators. Caitlin, I saw you unmute.
I just had a quick question about the survey. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, go to it.
So I went through it and it said go to the next page and you'll download the certificate. But when you go to the next page, it submits it, and I just get the thank you page, and I don't see anything about the certificate.
Seth, I see him coming online in the nick of time.
Yeah, I can look into it and
Okay.
get back to y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've transitioned to a new website, so sometimes the certificate's a little finicky, but I'll let you guys know.
So, and Brooke, I'm noting your response here too. So Brooke, I noted your comment here too about cultural differences in the loss of a child. So thank you for bringing that to also to the conversation that we'll try to develop. And thanks to Seth for helping us always troubleshoot whatever comes up. You all, we did transfer our website to a new platform. And we invite you guys to really be able to go in and take a look, because we're hoping it's a kind of a cleaner experience for you, and a more accessible experience for those who might need some accessibility options. Melissa did not get the survey, so Melissa, I've noted that. Seth will make sure, as he always does, that we'll email you the survey and take a look there. If anybody else has any issues, feel free to email me or Seth as well. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and sign off, and thank you all for really taking this time for yourselves and others. And we hope to see you at the next SC Chat.